Hey guys, this is Mr. V doing a book review today for Firestarter by Stephen King. Before I get into my book review, you guys should know that I do a spoiler-free book review, or if I give any spoilers, they're just minor spoilers to where if you see me looking down occasionally, I just have some notes, so I don't give any spoilers away. So, let's get into the book review for Firestarter by Stephen King. So the basic premise for Firestarter is there is a laboratory. They are doing testing on trying to give people special abilities. What happens is two people at that facility, they fall in love, have a kid, and then this kid also gets special abilities. And that kid's special abilities is pyrokinesis, or that they can light fire just based off of their thought process. They can just light fire. And the father also has a special ability. And the book is just this agency trying to track down that father who has a special ability and the kid who can start fires. Because they definitely want to get to the kid who can start the fires. And that's about as much as I can say. Because I said I try to do a spoiler-free book review, and there's not too much I can say in this book review without giving away spoilers, because things change a lot throughout this book. And that's as far as I can say, just that things change. So I'm just going to talk about the general of the book. Now, something before you guys get into this book, you guys should know that there are many sub-chapters. They made the chapters fairly long, but then in between there would be many sub-chapters. And the reason being because Stephen King wanted to give you what different people were thinking at the same time. He wanted you to know what a special agent was thinking for a page, and then for the next 5 pages, the subchapter, and then the next 5 pages, it would be about what one of the main characters was thinking, and then it would go back into what a different agent is thinking, and he was just jumping around a lot in terms of the subchapters. So just know that there are a lot of subchapters between that, and because of that, the character development does take a while. But because it does take a while, please do not give up. You do learn who the characters are, but it does take a little bit of time to understand fully who the characters are. Now, as for the actual book, as I said, I cannot give much away, but there are minor things that happen throughout the beginning, and it is kind of fun because the story in the beginning, it does flip back and forth from the present to the past. And it is fun because it adds this little bit of mystery about what happened. Because sometimes he will talk about something in today and you don't know why it is that way. And then he'll talk about something in the past and what type of thing that event, what type of thing that triggered later, and all those types of things. And it does add some fun because you keep wondering, okay, what happened? And you also continue to learn sometimes the next chapter. Other times you learn it 3 chapters later, but you do learn it throughout the book, and you learn it in a fun way. It wasn't a frustrating way. So it is very fun. But some of the fun of this book is just the premise about if this happened. Because to think about how crazy it would be if they did this and then all of a sudden there was a kid who could just light things on fire. And it was kind of cool because thinking about it is that this kid is just 8 years old. She is just 8 years old, and she doesn't, and here's a minor spoiler, she doesn't want to light the fires. She does it a little bit in the beginning, and she feels bad, and she just does not want to. And that's why she and the dad are taken off. They don't want to be caught by the agents. Because the agents are just, they want to capture them, but not kill them. And you don't know why that is until later in the book. I'm not going to expose why, but you don't know why. And again, that adds a little bit of extra fun to not know why. And they're just on the run and all that. But it's interesting as it adds a little twist to where it's a 8-year-old kid and not a fully grown person. And because it's a young kid and the way she talks, you do wonder at some point, will she become evil? Because she has the ability, but she's only 8. By the time she's 20, is she going to become evil? And, that's just a little bit of the fun. He doesn't really point that out in the book, but that's just more when I was thinking about the book and what was happening, and I don't know if it was meant to be that way or not, but it did add some fun to that. Now, as for the story does continue to move forward. It continues to progress. And, because there's continual different events And it does make you wonder, okay, where will the story go? Because the different events happen, and it makes you wonder, okay, which direction will it go in? So that again, it is fun. But with that being said, there is nothing super intriguing about this story. There's nothing, I'm not going to say there's stuff bad, anything bad, but there's nothing super intriguing that just wraps you in. And because of that, it was fairly easy to put the book down, like just read a little bit and then put the book down for even a couple of days. You still wanted to finish the book. I still wanted to finish the book. I didn't want to start a different book, but it was pretty easy to just read a little bit and put it down. It wasn't one of those books where I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay up until midnight and read this. And, it wasn't one of those type of books, so that's a pretty big knock against it for me, was that it was, while it still was fun at different points, there was nothing super intriguing instead that just wrapped you in so much. And again, it was still fun because it does have a very easy plot and very easy characters. But I should say, the characters are easy after he fully develops it, because you heard me in the beginning of my book review say that it does take a while for him to develop the characters. But after he develops the characters, then it becomes fairly easy. But again, it's after he develops the characters, because in the beginning, I was confused for a little bit because there's multiple agents. There's, you're learning who the characters are, and there's like 4 to 6 agents. And sometimes I was remembering like, okay, who is who? Like, who is the one trying to capture him? Who is the top guy? Who is the second in command? It sometimes was hard. And what did not help was that some of them had similar names. The 2 similar ones were Hochstetter and Hollister, and they're both evil. But, sometimes they would refer to those people in the first name, and sometimes they would refer to them as Hollister or Hochstetter. Those are the last names. To where I had to sometimes remember, like, okay, who was who? Who had the higher command? And, that made it a little difficult at times. After you got to know who they were a little bit more, then it made it easier. So that's why. Just stick it out. Just stick it out for that aspect. But, that was one tough part. And another tough part is, and this is a part I feel mixed on, some people felt the story did drag at points. I can see why, I can definitely see why. I didn't feel it dragged too much, but there were times where I think he could have sped it up. The version I read was it was over 550 pages. It was around that, but he could have easily cut 100 pages out of the book, and he still would have been able to get the same, basically, book across. And that's my opinion, but he could have easily cut about 100 pages out. So, just be aware of that. I'm not saying the story dragged that much, but, there was just points where I'm like, it just didn't feel it was needed. And the last part that I did not like about this book was, and again, this whole thing's my personal opinion, but the end was just not for me. I'm not saying it was a bad end, because the end did answer a lot of the questions. Like, I judge an end based off of, did they answer the questions? Did it kind of wrap it up? And, and this book did, but for some reason, the end just was not for me. I don't know why. There were people online that liked the end. And, you may like the end, but just for me, it just was not for me. I do not know why. It just, I just felt that he could have added something else. But, again, that's just a personal opinion of mine. Anyway, I'm going to rate this book, give it my official rating right now. So I always rate my books on a scale of 0 to 10. A 0 is an awful book to where you never want to read. A 5 is average. And a 10 is phenomenal, to where if it gets 10, that definitely should be your next read. Because if you look at my other book reviews, I'm a very tough critic. And again, a 5 is average, to where it's hard to move up even 1 point in my rating system. So, this book was a little difficult to rate, and I'll explain why in a sec. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to rate this book, again, a 5's average. I'm rating this book a 5.5. I almost just rated it a 5, but I'm rating it a 5.5 as I feel it deserves slightly above average. Because, and the reason I'm rating it, as I said, it's just close to, just a little bit above average, is because there was nothing bad about the book, but there wasn't anything super intriguing, and it was fairly easy to put down for a time being and then come back to it. But again, it was like there was nothing bad, but nothing great. And then even after reading it and you think about it, nothing really sticks that much. Good or bad, nothing really sticks. The bad books I've read, something still sticks. The good books I read, definitely something sticks. sticks. This one just didn't really have anything, and I can see in a couple years just kind of shrugging my shoulders, being like, oh yeah, I semi-remember that book. And that's why, but I almost rated it an average, but I felt it still deserved slightly above average. No, sorry. So, again, it's just a slightly above average. If you guys have any interest in the book, you guys should go and get the book, but don't rush out and get it. Anyway, if you guys have any disagreements, you guys have any comments, any questions, please post it in the comment section below. I hope you guys click the subscribe button, as I do many book reviews and I read many different genres and authors. But again, if you have any comments, please comment below. I thank you guys for watching my book review. This is Mr. V. Go enjoy your readings.